How about we hop into this
because the best idea.
Because this is basically new news. This is something that hasn't been talked about before. The events for this coming ScapeCon 3 this year. So, Mike, spill the beans. Let us know what this is about.
Yeah, so I was hoping, realistically, I knew it wouldn't be up yet, but I was hoping like maybe event schedule could be up and stuff, but it's just not done, and we don't want to rush it. So May 27th is the official date where all the side events will drop, and one of the 5 events we're talking about will drop, and that'll make sense, once we get there. But essentially, there are the weekend is built like this. Wednesday is the Three-Headed Hydra team event, just the one event on that Wednesday. It'll start. I have to check when it starts again. I don't remember, but we announced it a little earlier. That way people could, book flights accordingly if they want to play in it. So it's essentially teams of 3. You're playing 3 1v1 games simultaneously against the other team, and it's essentially a simultaneous best 2 out of 3, right? So it's just such a fun way to do teams. 2v2 is fun as well, but those games take longer, and that's one of the bigger things is they just take longer. I remember running team tournaments. I judged the last couple team tournaments at Gen Con, and it's just more demanding time wise. So Three-Headed Hydra, and there's just great experiences of it's 1-1, and all 4 people that their games are finished are watching this final game between 2 people with their tournament, their team win on the line, right? It's just a cool thing, and I get to yell at my friend and my dad when I win a game and they both lose, and it's great. True story of both the last 2 ScapeCons, but anyways, not the yelling part, but not the yelling. But
and just for people who don't know, explain a little bit about what Three-Headed Hydra is.
Yeah, so it's basically what I said, but there's a little bit of a pairing process where we have our 3 players with our 3 armies. You have your 3 players with your 3 armies, and it's just a very simple. You roll the d20. So let's say I'm team A, and let's say Ken is team B. I'm making decisions maybe for team A. He's making decisions for team B, right? And so maybe my team is Ryan and Joe, and maybe Ken's team is Jason and Jeremy. I don't know why I spaced Jason and Jeremy. So anyways, I might say, okay, I'm team A, I ban 1 matchup. So maybe I say, okay, Ryan can't play Ken, right? Because, his army matches up poorly into that. And then Ken would pair all 3 of his, all 3 matchups based on that one condition. The first team gets the one like auto, you can't pair this matchup, but then the second team gets to pair all the matchups accordingly. It's pretty balanced because then we actually finally get to choose which of the 3 maps, because we'll have 3 different maps, and so then we'd get to decide which map each of these 3 matchups take place on. So it's kind of a cool balancing factor of like, okay, our worst matchup, or maybe we have 2 good matchups into one army on your team, so we'll ban the one army that doesn't have a good matchup there, so we know we get 1 good matchup there, right? So we should have a good chance into that. The other team can decide matchups, and then we can select maps accordingly, and that can be a pretty that can matter between the glyphs that are on the maps, right? These we've got different glyphs on different maps. So maybe my army is really good if I have the move glyph. So I'm gonna, by being team A, I've got the choice of which, if I can give myself the move glyph, hopefully, but maybe that map isn't so good for me in that matchup. So it's just some interesting, I'm making it maybe some more deep and complex, but it's just a cool little, balancing thing. And it lets you bring some more units that are like a little more niche and a little, less general, right? Whereas if you bring Knights of Weston, you're always going to be fine because, pretty much they're always going to be good, right? Whereas like Warriors of Astra are absolutely horrible into range, but amazing into melee. So just like there's this interesting thought of like Samurai, right? Samurai are a lot better in Three-Headed Hydra than they are in normal, because in normal they get shredded by range, but in Hydra it's like, well, they might not, all 3 of their armies might not have really strong range components. So it's just interesting. It's just fun. It's just a fun way to do a team tournament. And this year, Yeah, I guess we can spoil it as we go. I'll pull up the point limit. So we're actually doing it as Delta this year. The last 2 years we've done it as B+ and under, which again forced you to use like lower ranked units. And this year we're doing Delta, which is similar-ish. It's going to have a different meta. We're doing Delta mostly to mix it up. It'll be a different. You'll see very different armies this year than you did the last 2 years. That's because Delta just has even though points should be more balanced, you're just going to see very different armies, I think, this year. So we're doing 480 points in 18 figures, and that's for each army, and you can't duplicate any units across an army, right? So if I have, I don't know, one squad of rats, then Ryan can't have any squads of rats. So that is going to be Wednesday.
Sounds fun.
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And by the way, I think we're having a small, I don't want to call it an event because it's not an event. I think we're having a mini event / mini game all con long. Details to be announced because I got to make sure that it's all straightened out and squared away. But trying to add some other things to do, aside from just Heroscape and all the, other board games that people will be playing, especially at night, right? Night tends to be some time for like other board games or like, video games. I know we had like a Melee set up and, but anyways, yeah, so there might be other stuff. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday is pretty simple. I don't remember exact times anymore, but essentially there is one championship. And each championship is a Swiss of 5 rounds, right? So you play 5 rounds, and then it cuts to 4-1s and better. So it's a tough cut. You've got to go 4-1. If you lose 2 games, you're out. And alongside that will be one side event. And so if it's a classic championship, there will be a VC side event alongside it, and vice versa. So if there's a VC championship, there will be a classic side event alongside of it. After that 5 rounds, and the side event will be uncapped. Any number of people can play in it, and so this is a big deal. Do not feel pressured to play in any of the championships you do not want to play in. The part of the reason is of doing it this way is that all 3 championships are treated equally, and if you want to play in one but don't want to play in the other 2, if you don't want to play in any, that's also totally cool. Just play side events. You'll have a good time. And I guess to back up, just in case anyone missed the announcement, we're doing a World Championship / Tournament Champions on Sunday. It's a closed qualification event, and there are 2 ways to qualify, kind of 3. Basically, the top 4 of each of the championships on Thursday, Friday, Saturday all qualify. The winning team of Hydra on Wednesday will also qualify, so that's 3 more people. So that's technically 15 different people, but there might be some overlap. And then the any wild card spots, so there's automatically going to be at least 1, but there might be multiple if anybody like qualifies multiple times. Just go to the person that has the most wins across the weekend. So this encourages you to play out events because your win-loss doesn't matter. So if I'm 0-1 in a side event, I might still play that out to try to get 3 wins, right? So I don't expect the side events to feel like cutthroat this year because each morning one especially is alongside a championship that's gonna, you auto-qualify from that if you can top 4 it. So I'm hoping side events feel pretty laid back, and the emphasis is really going to be on fun and different experiences this year. But that's the overall framework of the weekend. And we'll have side events alongside the world of the championship on Sunday as well. So it's not like if you don't qualify, you don't play on Sunday, But this is just like, this is a cool way to just say, and we'll talk about formats in a second, but basically in most big games, you have to, at their World Championship, you have to do well in different formats, right? If I'm playing Flesh and Blood, a card game I love, if I go to Worlds, I have to play Blitz, Constructed, and Draft. I have to play 3 different formats, and if I bomb in Draft, I'm not going to make cut. I'm out. So I've got to be able to do well in multiple different formats. So this is very much the same thing, and you'll see what we've done here to do that. But again, do not feel pressured to play in any of the championships, because if you don't like one, don't play in it. Play the side events. You'll have a great time, and you can qualify via the other championships, 3-headed Hydra, overall wins, etc. So, and again, we'll have prize dice and such for just winning side events. So go play those too. It'll be fun. But anyways, basically you have the 5 rounds of Swiss of the championship alongside one side event. If one's classic, the other's VC, vice versa. Then you go to the top cut of all 4 ones and better, and that's in the afternoon, starting around 2-ish, I want to say. So after a lunch break, and we'll have the top cut alongside 2 side events. I'm pretty sure each day it's 1 classic, 1 VC during that afternoon slot. Dinner break, top 4/finals, depending on how many people qualify, etc., for championship, alongside probably 1 side event, because a lot of people play other games at that point, maybe 2 side events, just depending on interest. Probably just gonna be 1 during the night slot, right? So that's like, you're looking at 4 different side events to choose from every day, plus the championship. So a lot of different things to choose from. I hope that makes sense. It'll make a lot more sense probably when I post it, but essentially, again, championship all day pretty much. And if you don't want to play that championship or get knocked out, if you don't want to play it, you can play 3 different side events. You can play morning, afternoon, night. And if you don't make it to cut of the championship, you can play afternoon and night side events. And if you get knocked out before dinner, you can still do championship, most of the cut, and then a side event. So it's, I guess, kind of long days, but I mean, what else are we doing at ScapeCon,
Yeah, well, you're definitely not there to sleep,
Yeah, you play Heroscape.
There's still about 10 hours between the end and start, so that's plenty of time, not that any of us go to bed right at that point, but...
You go to ScapeCon for eating and playing Heroscape. That is it.
I think I probably averaged about 5 or 6 hours last year, so... Does that make sense? I probably didn't do a great job explaining that. Again, it'll make sense when I just lay everything out.
Right. When it's listed.
It's a good spoiler.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's nice. I like how you implement where it's like, someone might think, darn it, I didn't win a championship, so I might not qualify for this big tournament on Sunday. But if you have someone who qualifies that has overall wins, I think that's a nice little thing. It's almost like, I imagine like qualifying with points on a NASCAR race almost, to where you might not win the race, but if you keep on going down the track and getting as much laps as possible for points, that it's almost that effect, to where it encourages you to keep on playing and try to get those wins, even if you might not win that particular tournament. You still might get enough to edge forward on Sunday. So I think that's a very good thing. For sure.
And a different way to do it maybe would just be overall wins total, no auto qualifications for any of the big events. Mm-hmm. My goal here is really to try to keep it so that people aren't trying to just farm and try hard the side events. If it's all just wild card, it's like, if I see all the, a bunch of the top players in this championship, I'm just going to bring the best army possible and destroy the side events that day, right? So I'm trying to keep like the tryhards a little more like, focus on those championships, because we had considered even, maybe you can't play all 3 to try to make sure people are playing the side events too or whatever. But then I was like, no, the people that want to just play the championships, they'll have fun. They'll have fun doing that. Great for them. That won't be me. I'm probably going to play 1 of the 3 big championships and that's it. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot. So, so that would be a different way to do it. But, and again, this is the first, we've never done anything like this. We'll see how it goes. This might be 1 year and done in this format, or maybe it just needs to be tweaked a little bit, or maybe it'll go great. I have no idea. It was just like, it was just a crazy idea. So
just do it. Yeah. No. And so now when it comes to or did you have something, Jeremy, that you wanted to ask?
No, there's agreeing.
Okay.
Let me, before we go on, I do have to credit 2 people, Earl of Sandwich and Gucci Boost. The 3 of us have really been working on events together. Ken's been working on one specific one, which we'll talk about in a minute, the coolest one by far.
Okay.
But the overall event schedule, making sure all of this work, and my dad to an extent as well, running all this by him, and he's basically the sanity check, because if we're coming up with something really crazy and stupid, my dad will be like, no, that's dumb. So he's a sanity check, but really Ben and Gucci deserve a lot of credit for making this like the overall this structure was my idea, but then like how everything was going to fit together has been very collaborative with the two of them, and we had talked extensively about different, before I finally came up with this one, we had gone through a bunch of iterations first, so of like different ways to structure things, and they've put in a lot of work and they deserve credit, so they'll of course be credited
for sure
after ScapeCon. So
for sure.
But go ahead.
No, that was actually going to be part of my next question is what the process of getting all these events started. I'm sure it's been a long time in the making, so I was wondering, how long it's been taking and with who it was. So you answered half that already. So yeah, explain how long that's taken and where you all started with that.
September.
Okay. Basically.
Yeah, so I mean, ScapeCon was in July, and August was, everything is up in the air right now, and we don't know what's going to happen with this product that may or may not have released.
The crazy.
And yeah, it was just wild, and we were like, okay. And so it was really September because I think signups started in September, and we instantly had a ton of people, and that's when I started, working. And Chris started on his software in August, because he just reached out to me. That the whole way that went down is basically Chris reached out to me in August and said like, hey, like I have software skills. Like, is there anything you think I can help with for ScapeCon? So like, shout outs to Chris for just like volunteering this. And I was just like, can you do you know how to build a pairing program, right? And that's ended up spiraling into what we all know as Heroscape.org. But that was, and really like that was kind of the impetus was him asking. It was just like, yeah, like we could really, with how many people we're possibly going to have, we need a better system, for instant and reliable and automatically taking care of everything itself. So but yeah, September has been pretty much September, October-ish. Probably September was when I started working with Ben and Mari, so Earl and Gucci. So
community is still going strong. It's good to see. Yeah. Now for this event that Ken's built up, explain a little bit about that. I'm interested.
Well, first, let's spoil the three formats. First, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're spoiling all the championship formats tonight, right? So we've already spoiled Hydra. For those that missed it, it was 480 points, 18 figures. Each team, each army is going to be that much. Thursday, we're doing Delta. We're doing Delta Rule of 12, which I don't believe there's been a Delta Rule of 12 event run before. Rule of 12 means you can only have up to 12 of any given figure. So if you bring 3 squads of 4th Mass, that's your 12. If you bring 4 squads of Enoch Vipers, that's your 12. You don't have to bring 4 squads, obviously. It's just, that's the maximum. So we're doing 510 points, Delta points, of course, and 18 figures. For those that might not know, Delta's a repricing project that Chris Perkins, Veggie, and Doc run. So just they adjust point values to try to balance out units better.
And Heroscapers, is it Heroscape.org or Heroscapers.org?
Heroscape.org.
Heroscape.org. There's calculator for that for Delta points. Is that right? Yeah. So that makes it very convenient. Yep. All right.
It makes it so much. It used to be a spreadsheet, and it was just obnoxious to use. And now there is an army builder where you just toggle on VC or toggle on Delta or both if it's VC Delta, and it's instantaneous. It's amazing. So Friday, this should probably come to no surprise to anybody. We're doing reverse the whip. Not everybody loves the format. That's okay. Play side events. Again, you don't have to play it, but there are a lot of people that really love it. It's been a staple of the community. It's the most Heroscape event. It's the event that's unique to Heroscape that no other game runs.
It really challenges
Keyforge,
you.
kind of, but
so it really does challenge you.
Yeah. So Keyforge kind of runs. Keyforge runs something similar, but Heroscape did it first. So it is Heroscape. It's amazing. So 480. Well, nope. Not 480. 460. That's a 6. 460 points and 18 figures. So get started on your Versa Whip armies. I haven't built a single one yet. So
real quick in the chat, Chad Paris says, "Reverse the Whip is so hard. I always dislike playing with any figures that I don't bring."
Like I've got 8 armies built already, just so you know.
Yeah, you sent me one though, and not great. So
It did lose his first try, so.
Yeah. Who could have thought? All right, Saturday. Speaking of VC, we're doing V cheese. Just bring the V cheese. We're doing 455 points and 20 figures. Shout out to Veggie and Chris for coming up with it, because I basically just messaged both of them and said, hey, two of you figure it out. Tell me what the points and figure limits are that are going to make for a really, a diverse and healthy meta. So that should be really fun. So that'll be on Saturday, V cheese. And then Sunday, World Championship. Again, we will have at least one. I think we might have one or two side events alongside of it, so people will be able to play Heroscape regardless. Good players are not going to make it into the championship just based on the basis that there are going to be 64 people there and only 16 spots. So don't feel bad if you don't make it. I very well may not make it. I probably won't make it. And that's fine. So another cool thing we're doing this year, live commentary. That's right. Stream with live commentary. Commentators booth will be in one of the boardrooms, one of the extra rooms we've got from the hotel this year. So
do you have volunteers, or is someone else going to do it? Is someone just going to be here to that?
I don't know yet. That's to be figured out later. And I got to double check with Hound's Rule that he has it all squared away, because I believe he is. So that'll be streaming on his Twitch.
Very cool.
So that'll be awesome. I'm so looking forward to that, because that's also a staple of other gaming events, right? Like if you like, there's always live coverage with commentators of any big championship. So I will be more than content to commentate the World Championship, right? Like I'm good, especially because the format is freaking sweet. So we have, so Ken has been a huge part of this process. That's, why I dragged him on here tonight. He came on very willingly, but
he's a friend of the podcast. He's been on before. So
yeah, exactly. So Ken has been a huge help with this, because we are doing draft and we are doing preset draft pools. You cannot bring any of your own figures. You've got to come and play, and all of the games in the top 16 will be with the exact same pools. So it doesn't matter who you're matched up with. It don't matter who you're matched up with maybe, but everybody's playing with the same pools. So we'll have to assemble 8 of the exact same pool. Top 8 is going to be 4 copies of a different pool. So we've got 4 different pools, 1 for each round, single elimination. It's going to be a ton of fun. So it's going to be complete
wild.
It's like I said, you got to be able to win 2 different types of events, right? Every other event all weekend is bring your own army. Three-Headed Hydra is a little different because it's the team aspect, but still every other event was bring your own army. As long as we're not taking up too much of your time, I figured Ken and I could talk maybe about how we're building these pods, because we're not spoiling the pods yet, partly because they're not done. 2 are done and 2 are not done, but they're close. They're very close. So it's been a lot of work. It's been a ton of fun though, putting these together. So lots of trial and error.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get on in a second. I just want to address, there are some questions popping up in the comments.
Absolutely.
Let's cover these real quick. Okay. Tommy Adams says, what were the points / limit of 3HH?
480 and 18.
480 and
480.
18.
Delta.
480 and 18. Yep. Delta. There you go. Okay. You got that, Tommy. And then Christopher Perkins is actually on the chat saying RTW still alternating rounds, right?
Yes. So 4-1s may cut. So it'll be 3. The Swiss will be 3 rounds with and two rounds against, and that's alternating. I don't know that we figured out the order of rounds for cut yet, but alternating.
Yeah, and he also adds 3 with yours, 2 without for pre-cut. And
yes,
that's basically what you said. Okay. And then Tommy Adams, so if you could just repeat this really quickly. Tommy Adams says, I missed a Sunday's event. So if you just say that really quickly, and then we'll move on to pods.
World Championship draft pods. Every round you're playing with every round you make it to, you play with a completely different draft pool. A couple figures might overlap, but very different draft pools.
There you go.
So
yep. All right. So let's move on to what you want to talk about next with this.
Ken, you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll start. I think drafting's always been like a staple of Heroscape, and when we've tried to implement it in the past, I feel like it's a lot of I'm going to bring X number of packs or X number of waves or whatever, and a lot of times that ends up being like, well, I'm just going to bring a Knight army with Gilbert, and then Mike's like, well, I'm going to bring a Heavies army with Nirak and Grimnak, and we just draft back and forth, so maybe I can steal his Heavies, he can steal my Knights, but like we still have these two armies that we kind of already brought. And what we're doing, or what we're trying to attempt to do, and I feel like it's going really well. Two of them are complete. One of them's almost done. The other one's about 75% done. It's just a lot of built-in synergies and cross synergies. A little bit of a cat and mouse game. Like, oh, well, if you take this unit, he might take this unit. So maybe I just go ahead and take this unit first to see what he picks first, so then I can counter what he picks. It's been a lot of fun. Sometimes getting the first pick is not the best, and sometimes going first is absolutely the best. So I wouldn't say absolutely, because there's so much counterplay in here, but like a lot of times, oh, I got to go first, and then you find out like, oh, that actually wasn't that bad. So it's been a lot of fun, and I know Mike's been testing this with his dad, and then Gucci and Earl has been testing it, and I've been testing a little bit with Garanex. So we've been having a lot of fun with it. We've done a lot of mock drafts too. Mike and I have over the internet, so we didn't get a chance to play those games out. But just kind of like, okay, well, if you pick this, I'm going to do this, and it's been a lot of fun. And like I said, the pre-built armies with built-in synergy and counters to each other have been so much fun to be like, okay, what's he going to do next, and what should I do in order to counter what he did?
Wow. Yeah.
So the way draft people have been doing it recently has been either like I bring half. Well, recently, I mean, before the last 2 years, because Ken really kind of started this back up, I would say 2 years ago at KenCon, but pre-KenCon, the way it was happening was one of two ways. Either both of you bring a pool of, let's say, 700 or 800 points, and then you sit down with your opponent, you combine your two pools, and then you draft from that. But whenever you as the player have agency in that way, you can figure out ways to I don't want to say break it, but abuse it, right? Depending, you can just build it differently, and you can build it in very specific ways. And the other way is like pods or clusters, right? Like I'm not saying we won't run, let's say, a pod draft or something at ScapeCon, as well as like at a side event time, but like pods or clusters, like, okay, I bring like 3 or 4 pods that are all X number of points, or sometimes it's been 2, you bring 2 pods or something, and if I bring, let's say, 4, maybe we each end up drafting 2 or 3 or whatever, so I bring 4 pods, each of 180 points maybe, so then we roll, and then I pick 1 pod, and then you pick 2, and then I pick 1 or whatever, and you build your armies like that, and again, just weird stuff with and I know some people really like it, but it's just not drafting in the way that really Heroscape was meant to be, which is you've got a limited pool of figures and you're going to draft from that. Like Rise of the Valkyrie, right, is just such a great example of that, of like you've got this pool of 15 or so different army cards, and I draft 1 and you draft 1, and we go back and forth. The way we're doing drafts here is I draft 1, then you draft 2 cards, I draft 2 cards, etc., back and forth like that. So it's 1 and then just 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, etc. You stop once you hit the point total. You can drop figures if you go above the figure count. I think that's pretty much it for the mechanics of the draft, and so it's just been really interesting, as Ken said, trying to build interesting and unique pods. And I've put a pretty big emphasis on what's our concept on the pod, and let's make these concepts different, right? So not only is this a different event from everything else you're doing over the weekend, but your experience in top 16 should be a bit different than your experience in top 8, just because the pods, the pools are just built in a different manner, right? Like, so we have and there's so many different ways you could approach building these pods. You could build them pretty synergy-less, but for this year, we've been pretty heavy on the synergy and making it so, we've had core concepts of like, this is the synergy we want to explore, and how are we going to do that? So I'll spoil, like, one of the pods is Jandar focused. This one was the first one we did, and it was first shout out to Dysel for giving a proof of concept back like 5 months ago or something, which my dad and I tried it. It was like, this works. We're building the pods a little bit differently, but that her concept was very helpful. So then, let's back up 1 second. Ken again deserves the credit for revitalizing and really starting this because he ran something very similar at KenCon 3, I believe, where I believe everybody got one half of a pod, and so it was a similar thing to like the I bring one pool, you bring one pool, but it was still pre-built and not like and you built that more with like synergies rather than like counters, right?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. So like, for instance, and they can go back and look at this, but like I think I gave Lone Wolf Jeter Trons and Repulsors. So like in his build, so is he going to go after the Trons, or he's going to leave some of the Repulsors that counter the Trons? So those are the kind of things that we did at KenCon. Yeah,
and so then Isaac just ran an event in Peoria, I think this month, doing exactly this with pre-built armies. He went not armies, pools. Very much a good number of them are built based on Ken's pods from KenCon. There's some new ones and some differences, some changes he made, but it was just proof that the concept worked. And I will stress this: if you do not make the championship or whatever, like these pods are first of all, these pods are all going to be posted publicly. Hopefully on the 27th. I think the last one will be done by then. I have to believe it will. But like, if you're not going to ScapeCon, like, I would just recommend trying them. They're just fun, right? It's just this has easily been the most fun I've had in Heroscape outside Reversal Whip. Like, it's just the gameplay is super interesting. The drafting's interesting. Just from top to bottom, that whole experience for that hour or whatever it's just top tier Heroscape. This is Heroscape as Craig designed it. You know, that drafting is just so fun, and the games become so interesting. You know, so I highly recommend. And there's a learning curve to drafting because I realized pretty quick. It took me probably 6 or 7 drafts before I figured out what the heck I was doing, and now I'm a lot better at drafting. But like at first, like my armies were just awful, right? And part of it has been the pools have gotten better and more refined, and it's harder to make really bad choices now. But at the start, when the pools, especially because the way we do it is we kind of throw everything we think we might want in there, and inevitably that doesn't work. So what we do is we do a mock draft first. Ken and I will, on the phone, we'll just go back and forth and do 2 or 3 drafts and not play the game, right? This is just to see, like, are we seeing the same figure first picked each time? If so, that's a problem, probably, right? Are we seeing, you know, is this just not even a consideration, you know, this unit? Or is this unit just too good? You know, do you have to go this? So, like, with the Jandar pool, it was pretty clear early that Gilbert couldn't be in the pool. Gilbert was just too strong for that pool, right? So he went out, you know, and so figure out even, like, we start out just, like, the point and the figure element is just arbitrary, right? We just say, like, well, this might work, and we've adjusted, I think, most of them at this point, the points figure, sometimes drastically.
Yeah, and to reinforce what Mike's saying about draft, I would really encourage you guys to at least give it a whirl once or twice before you go to ScapeCon, because it is a little bit different than you think it's going to be, I think. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed.
Oh, okay. I don't want there to be silence. Oh, there it goes. There it goes.
Oh, you cut out, Ken.
Yeah, you cut out for a second, Ken.
Man, I am so tired of this internet crap today. Anyway, I have bounced out like 15 times. Anyway, I don't even know what I was saying, but
it's all good. You know, the drafting thing. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast, basically. Yes. So. Endorsed. All right.
And again, shout out to Ben. Yeah, shout out to Ben and Ari for testing all this stuff. You know, testing maps for me as well for ScapeCon maps. And then shout out Ken and then Paul Garanex, who's been playing with Ken. So we've had 3 different sets of eyes as well, right? 3 different pairs of sets of eyes. You know, right. Which is also helpful because, you know, how one area might draft might be a little different than another, and that's part of the beauty of the pods is that even just game to game with that same pod is going to be different, because how you draft, it depends so much on how your opponent drafts. And like, if I first pick this unit one game and then somebody else first picks this other unit this other game, those are going to be two different games, because it's a snowball effect of where do you go from there, right? So yeah, it's just I can't wait to drop the pods and allow people to start testing this out and playing it, because it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
And Mike, you might have said this, but just to make it clear, because my internet goes out every 7 minutes. Just to be clear, all of round 1 will be the same pod. All of round 2 will be a different pod, but it's going to be all the same for every match. Round 3 the same, and round 4 the finals will obviously be just the one pod. But so the first game, all 8 matches will all play from the same pod. So it's not like, oh, this guy's going to get a chain fighter only pod, and this guy's going to get a Dumatef guard only. Not that we're doing that, but so everybody's going to get this. Everybody's going to get the same pod for round 1. Round 2, it'll be a different pod from round 1, but everybody's going to get that pod. Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Okay. And here, let me. There's a few more question statements here or comments on the chat that I'm gonna catch up on here. So Christopher Perkins says, "Will the draft pools be public before ScapeCon 3 or published round by round?"
They will be public partly. I'm definitely not trying to give the people that are testing an unfair advantage. And to be clear, it's not like we're playing a million games with the current iteration. Like, we've played so many games or drafted so many times with the old defunct versions as well, which are not great. So that's the thing, right? It's been taking a lot of refinement to get these good. It's not as simple as just throwing together figures. It takes a lot of work to really get them to be really good, so it's been a ton of fun. But yeah, they'll be posted again. Ideally the 27th, all 4 should be posted. I'll at least get the ones that are up and done. 2 are done. I would say 99% sure. There's one tiny maybe change, but otherwise they're 99% there. The other 2, one is very, very close, and the last one is close. It's a lot closer than it was. Made really good ground on it recently, but it's been very much let's not start working all 4 at the same time, right? We got the first one set, and that was really the proof of concept. That first one was making sure, even with Daisol's proof of concept, getting that first one nailed down was yeah, this works, and it's worth investing more time into building 3 more of these things. So
okay. And let's see here. Marion says hola, and I know she's from Honduras, so hello, Marion from Honduras. Buenas noches. ¿Cómo estás? Hope you're doing well. And Chad Parrish says, draft event sounds really exciting. Lots of work has been put in. I'm sure it'll be a great event. Seems much more like how Heroscape was meant to be played, like you guys were just saying. And Tommy Adams is also saying, looking forward to the Marvel map. Is there going to be Marvel maps? Is it going to be Marvel type?
Yes, there will be one. There will be one map that is built out of Marvel terrain.
Okay.
Which shout out to Tommy. Shout out to him for donating 8 Marvel sets to ScapeCon to the terrain pool, because that's why we never had Marvel maps at ScapeCon or Gen Con, was because we didn't have any, right? So Tommy was like, first of all, I'm not sure why he loves the terrain. It's literally just it's pretty ugly, and it's not that it doesn't do anything. There's no functional value to any of it, and but he loves it, and he was like, Mike, if I donate 8 sets, will you include a Marvel map? And I was like, I mean, sure, there's not that many good ones right now. And he was like, okay, I'll run a Marvel map contest and force people to build maps with Marvel set. And I was like, there you go, great, let's do it, So yeah, very generous of him, of course, for doing that.
Of course. And yeah, thank you, Tommy. Also, I think Tommy organized Hexacon as well, which is almost it's almost like a offshoot from ScapeCon, really, for those that couldn't make it to ScapeCon, able to Hexacon, or even both, so it's just everything's expanding, which is it's a wonderful thing. Let's see here. Christopher Perkins says, looking forward to all of it. Thanks for all your hard work, Mike, and everyone else putting in the work. Yes. Really. And it makes you wonder, like this time next year for ScapeCon 4, if you'll be putting in as much work into that as you are for 3 now. We'll see.
Answer is yes, based on the fact that I figured it'd get easier, and somehow each year it gets harder.
That would be my guess too. Let's see here. What's it? Okay, Tom. Tom Adams says, "What Marvel maps look great?" And I was thinking the same thing. Aesthetics, because I've used like Marvel terrains for like my animations sometimes, and yeah, they kind of look good.
It's just the contrast. It depends how you use them. Because the contrast between and this is the same with like the dungeon versus like the Rise of the Valkyrie, where it's like versus the Swarm, right? Like the Rise of the Valkyrie tiles are all brown but with a different color, and then you've got the Swarm and the Marvel sets, which are just monocolor completely, and then you've got the dungeon, which is like 2 different colors but neither is brown. It's just that's the Heroscape world aesthetically of like that's what I mean by the Marvel trades. Like it meshes really well with like dungeon, and it looks good with like road and stuff. But then if you put it with like Rise of the Valkyrie, it looks not so good,
out of place.
So that's
Yep.
Exactly. So it has its place, but it's harder to make it look good. Water treatment facility is still, I think, the best looking Marvel map I've ever seen by Game Bear. It's beautiful. So that's with Marvel. So
let's see here. Tommy Adams says, I won. I don't know if he means it in Hexacon. Probably so. I won by getting Marvel maps in ScapeCon. I mean, okay. Yeah, absolutely. No, and thank you, Tommy, for volunteering that. I look forward to seeing that when we're there come August. So now, moving on, and how about we start, because it's almost been an hour. I think it's practically been an hour discussing this. Is there anything else important you would like to say before we wrap up? And any questions that the rest of my panel might have for this as well?
The one thing I would say is when we're building this draft pool, so like for the first round on Sunday morning, it'll be 8 different pools. I'm not sure, like, Mike and I can build 8 pools with our collection, so we'll probably need the Heroscapers' help for doing that. Just putting that out there.
Okay.
I mean, I only have 20 chain fighters, so I can't make 8 pools of 40 chain fighters.
It sounds intense. It really does. That's why.
Yeah. So exactly what Ken said. And I'm gonna try to, ideally it's gonna be, if you supply a pool, you supply that whole pool, just because I'd prefer not to deal with the I brought like 3/4 of this pool, and like Joe brought almost all the other quarter, except Jeremy also threw in this other figure, right? So like we're gonna try to avoid that to the best we can. So ideally it'll be, I think I can supply like 1 copy of each pool, but I can't supply a second copy. I don't think of any of the pools, because like uniques, I don't have 2 of each unique. I don't have anywhere close to that. Just because like you don't need them, right? So it's like, so I will be asking for a lot of help obviously on this front, and I know that'll make things maybe difficult for like, I've committed these figures to this event, so like what am I going to run on the side events? And we'll make it work. We'll even, maybe we'll be more flexible with proxies. And again, people are so gracious about lending figures, but I'm just thinking for like that first round where we need 8 copies of the pool, those side events, we're just going to have to say to people, hey, you've got to, proxies are totally cool, maybe on those Sunday side events specifically. So we'll work it out. We'll make it work. This isn't, you're not going to be punished for helping us, have all the pools put together for that Sunday. So.
And it looks like Chris Perkins is already saying, I'm bringing most of my collection and I'm happy to contribute draft pools as needed. So you already got a volunteer right there. So, and okay, and anything else? Guys, do you have any questions for these gentlemen before we wrap this segment?
No, I'm so excited for all of you.
We are not going to sleep.
I'm excited to try out. I'm curious to see what the pods are going to be. That is something that because even with pre-made armies, like that's something that we started with in our group.
before we understood what good army compositions were, like Glenn and I would like talk to each other about like making pre-made armies, and so like when we had our girlfriends come over or friends come over, we're like, hey, let's roll a dice, you pick an army, you get an army, I get an army, and then we just fight. And so instead of wasting all of, let's say, an hour or two either drafting or pulling out the binder and making armies right there and then, and then that's when Glenn started to make a spreadsheet for Deathwalkers, and then that goes on forever. Just keep scrolling. But yeah, I mean so trying out that format and maybe giving that a try of making the team army right on the spot. You go, I go, you back and forth. Counteract each other. Like, I'm curious to try that again. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys all put that together. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and they're not that collection intensive. A pool isn't going to have 6 squads of Knights of Weston.
Yeah.
So if you're it's also not gonna have 20 chain fighters, despite Ken trying to sneak that into one of them probably. So that's the thing, is that if you're one of the people, like, when I started and when most people got into the game back in the day, they bought just one of stuff, and so if you're one of those people, yes, you're gonna need a little more than one of stuff for these pools, but not that much more. So maybe that's a slight spoiler, but I don't think for this set, as of right now, at least, we're using more than 3 copies of anything. So it's like, so you don't, and it's primarily 2 copies of stuff. It's not very many things that are 3 copies. So, this is really easy for and if you only need to, Trexie's prices are really reasonable too. If you just need one extra squad of something, for probably like $6 or $8, right? Like, I need one more squad of this whatever to make this pool, and just proxy. That's the other thing at home. Like, so I'm hoping that these end up just being a great experience for everybody. But and obviously it was built for this. But yeah, I mean, it's been worth it. So
for sure,
awesome.
For sure. All right, and anything else we want to say before we wrap this segment? No? Okay. I think in closing, I look forward to this event. I look forward to anybody who's listening, who's planning to go, or even if, again, if you're just finding out about this, there are still spots open. And Mike, what's the price to attend, and what do you actually have to do to attend, since there are spots still open?
To attend, the best way is to PM me at this point. The price, it's not cheap. The price is all inclusive except for your hotel room. You will need the hotel room. I believe they're $134 a night this year. If they were $129 last year. I think they went up $5 if I remember correctly.
And
I think
it's
they're
not
$134.
bad. It's not bad.
Yeah, and you can split the rooms, right?
Right.
I know some people put 4 in a room or whatever, and if so, like, you each pay one night. That's $134 each, plus tax, of course. But the badge gets you everything else. There are 4 different options. 4, I think. There's the 2 main ones, which are the weekend badge and the weekend no breakfast. It's exactly what it says. Weekend is the weekend, and by the way, when I say weekend, it's Wednesday through Sunday. So it's a lot of days, but the weekend gets you the full time, and the weekend no breakfast gets you the full time as well, but without breakfast. So that's $400 for the weekend, $350 for the no breakfast. The other option is the 1 day, and there are 2 different options, if I remember correctly, because you shouldn't pay as much for Wednesday or Sunday, where there's only one event on that day, as you pay for Thursday through Saturday. So what did we do? We did Wednesday or Sunday is $55. Thursday, Friday, or Saturday is $125, but if you want no breakfast, it's $110 on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. So you can build your badge how you want, if you can only come for 2 days or 3 days or whatever. So yeah, I mean, that's it. And again, it gets you everything: t-shirt, meals, prizes, events, everything. So all inclusive except for the bar. So
right,
drinking at the bar. Yeah.
And I know, and especially in my case, I know I can't be there for the full time. So I mean, I messaged Mike and we we worked something out. So I mean, by all means, message them. Again, links are in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube for the events. And even Mike's Heroscapers.com page where you can message him and notify him if you want to get involved. It is definitely worth it, no matter what time or money you can put into it. I promise you all that out there. So hopefully we'll see all of you come August who are watching. And if you can't make it this year, plan for ScapeCon 4. Why not? Let's bust out the place again.
Sure, Ryan. I'll plan for ScapeCon 4. I'll do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hope you can make it, Joe. Yeah.
Joe, I'm only going to criticize you, Joe. Why didn't you come in this year? Anyway.
No, I mean, so there will always
fighting.
be, there, and I understand with, the price isn't the cheapest thing in the world, and also people have conflicts and stuff. And I know people, especially like Paul just had a baby, so there's real life stuff, and of course people have other obligations, and just if you can come, I think it's worth it. It's a really good experience.
It is totally worth it.
Yes.
Please go. If you're thinking about, I mean, if anyone's watching this, they are going. I don't know why, but if by chance that you're like, oh, let me see what this ScapeCon's all about. Click, go to ScapeCon 3. Please. Go meet these people. They are incredible.
Right.
I speak from experience. Wonderful people, good games, good times, good food. Go to ScapeCon 3.
Yep. And that is ScapeCon 3. Hope to see all of you there.
I guess one more spoiler.
Yeah,
We
go
are
ahead.
doing a coaching event. That's a real thing. We're doing.
Okay.
I don't know if we're
Great.
doing it for only one night or multiple nights, but essentially there will be players that both know the game and are good at explaining and helping people, and it'll be any if you are very new to the game and you need to learn basics, we'll work on you with basics. And if you are experienced but want to, let's say, learn how to play a very specific army, or with maybe you just aren't good with reverse whip style splash armies, it's literally whatever if you come in with something that you want to specifically work on, or how do I approach this matchup better, how do I do X, Y, or Z better, we can talk about that. Or if you are coming in and saying, hey, I'm new to Heroscape or newer, right, and I I just don't even really know where to start, with I'm losing all my games right now. What am I doing wrong? And it's well, you're splitting order markers, or your army compositions aren't good, or whatever. And we'll talk, and we'll get you with a good army, and then we'll start working on gameplay decisions, how do you develop and how do you do this stuff? Because I talk about it, Ken and I talk about it a lot on casters, but it's different in person. That's the struggle of running a podcast is so much of the game is visual, and I can't show you. Ken and I can't show you what we mean by developing and slow rolling melee, and how do you do that effectively, and how do you pinpoint the areas of the map that matter, and what are you going to do accordingly, and all this stuff that goes into decision making. I'm hoping the commentating is going to be really helpful this year for people that then watch the stream, and it'll go up on YouTube later. They'll be able to watch and see the decision points and hear people talk about the decision points. So I am going to be a little picky with making sure that there's at least one person that I've chosen for commentating at each time slot. Maybe it could even end up being color commentary plus analyst type deal, which is how sports I think do it a lot of times, right? And but just making sure there's a good analyst every
Right.
single time slot. That way it should hopefully be a very good experience for people then to watch later. But yeah, coaching will definitely be there for at least one night, maybe multiple. Might be one-on-one with your coach, or it might be two people are there, we'll match people up, and then one coach. It'll just depend on the band. First year we're doing this, I have no idea what the demand is going to be like, how many people will sign up for that and are interested in doing that. So, but yeah, that'll be an actual option.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I think Adam wants to sign up for me to coach him. So Doc does. So just you might want to make sure you work that in there, Mike.
Sure, I'll make sure.
All right. And
That's an awesome event.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.